day. Welcome back to my jungle kitchen. Today I'm going to be making a Caribbean rum cake, but without the rum because we don't drink alcohol in this family. We don't promote alcohol. The Bible says wine is a mocker. And in our lives, we have seen alcohol really destroy homes, not to mention destroying health and bodies as well. So instead of using rum, I use grape juice. And what I did was I got 2 pounds of fruit, so dried fruit. So I had about a pound of raisins, a half pound of currants, a half pound of prunes, and I soaked them in the grape juice overnight so they can soften. And then I blended them up. So I have this kind of thing here. So this is not a cake that grows really big. I don't particularly like this cake very much. I rather fruit cake than rum cake because rum cake it doesn't rise as much. But it's my brother's birthday and he really likes this cake and he really wants to eat it. So I am making this cake and maybe you like to eat it too. And this is a way that you can have it, and you can have it plant-based, whole foods, etc. So here we have all of this, and it's really good if you are, if you're anemic, because all of these dried fruits and that grape juice helps to build your blood. So to this mixture, I am going to add 1 cup of oil, and then I'm going to add 1 cup of molasses. So like I said, this is like an iron-rich cake. It is going to help you if you are anemic. It is going to build your blood. So into that I put that 1 cup of molasses. And I left some of the fruits over that I blended because I had to blend them. And I also blended 2 tablespoons of flaxseed. So I have flax gel here that I'm adding because typically this kind of a cake will take about 12 eggs. And there's no way that I can put that in here back. But at least I'm going to add some flax gel. And don't worry with all the liquidy parts that you blend because like I said, this cake is very forgiving. You can't really go wrong with it. So here you have this. And here you have this. And then to this now, I'm going to add some cornstarch in a moment. I still want to add a little bit of vanilla. You don't have to, so this is about a teaspoon. And now I'm going to add the dry ingredients. So what I'm going to do is take this out. Yes. Get my whisk. So I'm going to add a teaspoon. If you need a teaspoon measurement, that's great. I don't really need one, so I'm just going to average a teaspoon. But I'm adding about a teaspoon of allspice. I'm adding a teaspoon of cardamom. That's coming out a little bit too slowly. So about a teaspoon of cardamom. And then a teaspoon of star anise, which is a really nice spice. You don't see it often around, but in our country, we use it with a lot of stuff. So a teaspoon of star anise. It's like a Chinese herb. And then I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. And like I said, you could be measuring. I am not. So 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. And then I'm going to try to sift this flour. So I have Perigold flour, which is a white wheat flour. And on top of it, I have a little bit of a teaspoon of namak. So that's that sulfur-rich salt. Because I tend to add it simply because the recipe would have had so much eggs in it. And the sulfur gives that egginess. So I'm just going to whisk this in. And like I said, my jungle kitchen, so all kinds of insects flying by. If you hear my dogs barking in the back, it's because there are monkeys in the trees. So yeah. So I'm just sifting away. And I'm going to sift all of the flour in here. There's about 3.5 cups of flour in here. So about 1 pound of flour to 2 pounds of fruit. hence the fact that it doesn't raise that high. And I have just a little bit of the salt left in here that can just be thrown in, because that'll melt away. And there we go. So I'm going to give everybody a good whisk. Woo. So I'm just going to be whisking away here. Just to incorporate everybody. So in my country, in Guyana, this cake, well, the one made with rum, and when the cake is finished, you actually base it, or you put on it more rum. So definitely not what we're going to do with it today. And they call it in my country black cake. So in Guyana, we call it black cake. And the fruits that they use are usually soaked in rum for several days or weeks. Good. So there we have it. Everybody is nicely incorporated, except for my baking powder. Now, I use energy baking powder because of the fact of how what it forms in the body. Regular baking powder forms some harmful bases in the body. I'll tell you more about it some other time. So I'm adding about 2, 3, somewhere about 2 to 3 tablespoons of baking powder into here. I'm never sure how much to add because of the fact that this cake really resists. It resists it. Now in here, when I do this, there's some citric acid left back, because that's how this baking powder works. I'm never sure how much exactly to use in this recipe in terms of baking powder. So I have in about 2 tablespoons there. So I'm going to just use the other. I'm going to use the rest. So I'm going to use all that I have here. This is about 3 tablespoons of baking powder. And this baking powder works differently. So hopefully it has enough. Hopefully it has enough. So normally I try to do a tablespoon to a cup of flour when I'm making cakes. And I'm never sure what to do with this cake, because this cake is not a riser. So I am just mixing all the baking powder in. So I put 3 tablespoons. If you don't like it, and again, it doesn't really matter. If it doesn't seem to have risen enough for you, then you can add more baking powder if you like. I've made this cake without any leavening at all, just as is. And it comes out to me very similar to what the thing is that, like I said, it's not one of my favorite cakes, but I'm making it anyway. So now all we have to do is put it into pans, and I have my pans lined, but I do not have my pans sprayed. I don't think anything is in there for spraying. I think that one is finished. So just allow me to get my pans. Let me take this one out of here and this one out of here, because this has oil in it. So have my paper there with my pans, and this is going to make several little cakes. So you just throw it in there. So that's one. And, you know, when people are getting married, this is the cake that they'll use, and they'll make several layers and just, you know, create tiers with them. Like I said, people love this cake in my country, literally love this cake. I am not one of them. But I do love my brother. And because he wants the cake, this pan was not oiled, and because he wants the cake, I am just going to do the cake for him. Because family is important. So we're just going to throw it in there. Then we're going to put it in the oven. So this cake will cook at a little less than 350. Some people will put it in a 350, but I actually like cooking my cakes a little less. So maybe 250. I like doing that because the cake comes out well. It takes a longer time to rise. It's cooking longer, but I never get burnt bottoms. So that's just me, but if you have your own way of doing things, then by all means, do that. So there we have it. Thank you for joining me in my kitchen today. I will tell you how it looks in a moment. Well, good day again. So this is the final product of the cake here. So this is what it looks like on the inside. And it's so good that my mom said she's going to eat the whole thing in one day. So I guess it was a success.